They don't know what you really are. Break the chains, now, before Voss returns.
The hum of the Valkyrie's engines vibrated through the deck plating, a low growl that Dorian Kesh had learned to hate over 11 days of captivity. He sat on the cold grating of Hangar Bay 7, wrists bound in magnetic restraint cuffs, watching alien engineers crawl over troop transports like insects on a carcass. Beside him, chained to the same rail, sat a woman unlike anyone he'd ever seen. Her hair was the color of moonlight, braided in intricate patterns that ran down past her shoulders, and her armor, cracked in places, scorched in others, bore etched symbols he couldn't read. She hadn't spoken to him in 2 days. Then, without warning, she leaned close. "They don't know what you really are," she whispered. "Break the chains. Now, before Voss returns." Dorian blinked. "I don't have powers, lady. I'm a mechanic from Ohio. You destroyed a trench-class dreadnought with your bare hands 3 nights ago. I watched it happen." Her pale eyes didn't blink. "You don't remember." He didn't. The last clear memory he had was the transport crash that brought him here. After that, blackness, then waking in this hangar with his knuckles split open and half the guard detail dead. He'd told himself it was luck. Chaos. Someone else's doing. But when he closed his fists now, something under his skin answered. A pressure. A heat. "Who are you?" he asked her. "Seraphine Vhal. Crown heir of the Ashkelon Reach. And you, Dorian Kesh, are the reason my entire fleet came looking for this ship." Before he could ask what that meant, heavy footsteps echoed down the gantry. 2 guards in matte gray plating rounded the transport, rifles low but ready. Behind them walked a taller figure, broader, older, a scar running from temple to jaw, Commander Dorian Voss, the officer who had personally overseen every interrogation Dorian had endured. "On your feet," Voss said. "Both of you." Dorian felt the pressure in his chest spike, and this time, he didn't fight it. He closed his fists and pulled. The restraint cuffs sparked, hissed, and the chain between them shattered into pieces, arcs of blue electricity crawling up his forearms before fading into his skin like static disappearing into water. The guards froze for half a second, just long enough. Dorian drove forward, slamming a shoulder into the nearest one, sending him sprawling into a stack of crates. Seraphine, still cuffed, twisted her whole body and drove a boot into the second guard's knee, dropping him with a scream. "Move," she shouted, and Dorian grabbed the fallen guard's sidearm, snapping her restraints with 2 shots that scorched more than they should have. They ran. The hangar stretched half a kilometer, lined with dropships and armored transports, workers scattering as alarms began screaming overhead. Red emergency lighting bathed the graded walkways in a bloody glow. "There's a shuttle at the far dock," Seraphine called, sprinting ahead of him, armor plates realigning themselves as her suit systems came back online. "If we reach it." Voss's voice cut across the hangar through a wall-mounted speaker, calm despite the chaos. "Seal every exit. I want them both alive." They didn't make it 20 more meters before a squad dropped from an overhead catwalk, cutting off the path to the shuttle. Voss himself walked out from behind them, unarmed, hands open, studying Dorian with something between curiosity and hunger. "Do you understand what's happening inside you?" Voss asked him directly, ignoring Seraphine entirely. 3 nights ago, you channeled enough raw energy to gut a warship's hull plating. That is not a human trait. That is not any trait my scientists have cataloged in 400 years of conquest. "I don't know what I am," Dorian admitted, and for the first time, he meant it completely. Voss tilted his head. "What are you?" The question hung in the recycled air of the hangar, and Dorian had no answer. Not a real one. Not one built on anything but fear and a stranger's word. He looked down at his hands, expecting nothing, and found the same blue current gathering beneath his skin, brighter now, hungrier. "I don't need to know what I am," he finally said. "I just need to know what I'm going to do next." He surged forward. The energy in his hands wasn't controlled, wasn't elegant. It was raw force, throwing 2 guards backward into a support strut hard enough to buckle it. Seraphine moved beside him in perfect rhythm, striking joints and disarming rifles with a soldier's economy, years of war compressed into every motion. Voss finally drew a blade from his belt, meeting Dorian's charge head-on. Steel met current in a shower of sparks, and for a moment Dorian felt himself losing. The commander was faster, trained, precise. But Seraphine slammed into Voss's side from the flank, buying just enough space for Dorian to plant both palms against the commander's chest plate and release everything he had. The blast sent Voss skidding 20 feet across the deck, armor smoking, unconscious before he stopped moving. Silence, except for alarms and steam hissing from ruptured pipes. Seraphine grabbed Dorian's arm. The shuttle, now, while the bay's still in chaos. They ran the last stretch together, sealing themselves into the small vessel as its engines screamed to life. Through the viewport, Dorian watched the Valkyrie's hangar doors shrink behind them, then the ship itself, then the pale curve of an alien moon. "You saved my life back there," Seraphine said quietly, watching him instead of the stars. "Twice." "You saved mine first." Dorian finally let himself breathe. "What happens now?" "Now," she said, "we find out exactly what you are together. And whatever the answer is, my people will stand with you when it matters most." Dorian looked at his hands one last time, the current beneath his skin settling into something steady, something almost calm. He didn't have an answer yet, but for the first time since waking up in that hangar, he wasn't afraid of finding one. The shuttle broke atmosphere, and behind them, the Valkyrie began its slow, burning turn toward pursuit, a chase that was only just beginning.